Doctors are seeing something strange, an unexpected pattern among men in their 60s and 70s. They're showing up with mysterious fatigue, sudden memory lapses, anxiety, and even heart irregularities. But their blood work looks fine. Their diets are okay. Medications haven't changed. Then one doctor asked a question no one had thought to ask, and the answers pointed to a single, private habit most men would never suspect. That's how Ron's story started. At 71, he still hiked, ate well, and even volunteered twice a week, but suddenly his body felt like it was shutting down. Sleep stopped working. His mind got foggy, and for the first time, he felt truly old. It wasn't until he sat across from a specialist who looked him in the eye and asked, "How often are you doing it?" That's when everything changed. What followed exposed something deeply personal and disturbingly common, a mistake millions of older men are making without knowing it, a behavior no one talks about because most assume it's harmless. But when done wrong, and too often, especially past 60, the consequences might be far more serious than anyone wants to admit. This video isn't here to shame, it's here to open your eyes. Because the truth could be the key to restoring your energy, your clarity, and even your connection to others. This is Better Aging Advice for Elderly Men, where we say what others won't. Real stories, hidden patterns, and advice that could change how you age forever. If you're ready to hear what Ron and thousands of other men learned the hard way, subscribe now. The answers may be uncomfortable, but they just might save your health. Mistake number 1. Overstimulating the nervous system at night. Let's talk about something no one ever links to poor sleep, racing thoughts, or early cognitive decline. Yet it could be happening in your bedroom every single night. For decades, most men were told that a little self-pleasure before bed helps you relax. It's a stress reliever, right? A natural way to wind down? Not exactly, especially not after 60. Here's what the science and real stories are now revealing. When you climax, your brain releases a surge of dopamine, the reward chemical. That's followed by a burst of adrenaline, which triggers a wave of alertness through your nervous system. In younger men, the body rebounds quickly. But as you age, the bounce back slows, and that sudden flood of stimulation doesn't fade the way it used to. Instead of relaxing you, it jolts your system. You feel tired but wired, heavy but restless. Sleep becomes lighter, dreams become weirder, and your body stays in a low-grade fight or flight state well into the night. One man, let's call him Dan, was convinced he had early onset dementia. He couldn't remember basic tasks. He lost focus mid-sentence. He felt like his brain was betraying him. But he didn't have dementia. He had chronic sleep fragmentation, all because of one nightly habit he thought was harmless. When he stopped stimulating himself right before bed, his deep sleep improved within a week. By week 3, he was remembering names again. His thinking cleared. His energy returned. Here's the insight most people miss. Climaxing late at night isn't the issue. It's the timing. The brain misreads that dopamine-adrenaline combo as a cue to stay awake, not shut down. So what can you do? Try shifting any intimate activity to earlier in the evening, at least 2 hours before bed. Give your nervous system time to reset before your head hits the pillow, and track how your sleep feels after a week. You might be shocked. Because when you're over 60, sleep isn't just about rest. It's your brain's repair cycle. Disrupt it repeatedly and the consequences build fast. Your mind, your memory, and your mood depend on deep, consistent sleep, and this small mistake might be quietly stealing it from you. Have you ever felt wired at night even when you're physically exhausted? Like your body and brain are in two different time zones? Drop a comment. I guarantee you're not the only one. Mistake number 2, damaging pelvic floor muscles through excessive tension. It starts subtly, a little soreness after, a weird tightness in your lower core, maybe a brief urinary drip when you laugh, sneeze, or stand up too fast. You think, it's probably just aging. But what if it's not? What if it's a silent pattern? One that doctors are calling pelvic collapse, triggered not by illness, but by how you're using your body during moments of pleasure. Here's the shocking truth. Most senior men are unintentionally damaging their pelvic floor muscles during climax, and the issue isn't the act itself, it's how you're engaging your muscles. Here's what happens. Over time, men develop a habit of tensing their core, glutes, and pelvic floor too hard during release. It's often unconscious, but when you brace like that, especially repeatedly, those delicate internal muscles become strained and fatigued. Think of it like squeezing your fist as hard as you can for 30 seconds over and over every day, for decades. Eventually, that tension weakens the muscle group entirely, and what follows isn't just discomfort, it's dysfunction. We're talking urinary leaks, pelvic pain or soreness after climax, reduced sensitivity or incomplete release, increased risk of hernias or groin strain, erectile dysfunction that medications can't fix. It's what urologists are now quietly calling a hidden epidemic. And no one's warning men early enough. A 2024 clinical study revealed something alarming. Over 42% of men over 60 suffering from chronic fatigue shared one thing in common: not poor diet, not lack of exercise, but abnormal pelvic floor strain. And yet this topic remains taboo. Let's break that. It's not about stopping the act. It's about retraining the body to experience pleasure without over-bracing. Focus on breathing. Relax the glutes. Allow your core to stay soft. These small changes protect your pelvic floor and restore healthy function. You wouldn't clench your jaw until it's spasmed, so why treat your lower body that way? If you've noticed new pressure, dull aches, or a slight loss in control, you're not broken. You're just overdue for a reset. Ever felt new soreness or strange pressure after the fact? Drop a comment, because trust me, you're not the only one. Let's bring this into the light. And remember, the next mistake might explain that unexpected crash in your energy, even when you've done everything else right. Keep watching. Mistake number 3, replacing human touch with digital stimulation. Let's be honest, this is the part most people don't want to talk about. But it's quietly reshaping the emotional and physical health of millions of older men. The rise of online adult content has made digital stimulation more accessible than ever. For many senior men, especially those living alone, it becomes a substitute for connection, a quick fix, a moment of escape. But what happens after? One man in his late 60s said it best. It's like I feel lonelier the moment I'm done. There's a hollowness I can't explain. Doctors are calling it chemical loneliness. And here's what's really going on. When you use digital content for release, your brain creates a flood of dopamine, not just from the climax itself, but from the anticipation, novelty, and endless options on the screen. This cocktail creates an unnatural reward loop. And over time, the brain begins to rewire itself to expect stimulation from pixels, not people. This is called neuroplasticity, and yes, it still happens after 60. Your brain never stops adapting, which means what you repeatedly consume becomes what your brain craves. The result? Real-life intimacy starts to feel muted. Emotional connection feels harder to access. Touch doesn't register the same way. Dopamine resistance builds, leaving you feeling duller, even depressed. One man described it as being hungry, but forgetting how to enjoy food. The appetite is there, but the experience feels flat. And here's the kicker: this rewiring isn't just mental, it affects the body too. Some older men develop arousal issues, delayed release or loss of sensitivity, not from age, but from years of overstimulation from digital content. Their brains literally forget how to respond to real connection. But the fix isn't about shame, it's about rewiring with intention. Try this. Take a break from digital content for just 1 week. Instead, focus on real connection, conversation, eye contact, shared touch, even if it's as simple as holding a hand. Notice what changes. Neuroplasticity can work both ways. You can rebuild your sensitivity, your joy, your bond with time and attention. Because real intimacy isn't fast, it's felt, it's human. Has content ever left you feeling more empty than fulfilled? Or like something deeper was missing? Drop a comment, because you're not alone, and this conversation matters. Mistake number 4 is something almost no one associates with masculinity, but it may be quietly sabotaging your hormone levels. Keep watching. Mistake number 4. Ignoring warning signs of prostate strain. By now, most men over 60 have learned that the body doesn't always signal discomfort in the way we expect. But there's one area too many are overlooking: the prostate. Here's the truth. As men age, prostate fluid naturally builds up. It's a part of the aging process. Regular release through self-pleasure or intimacy helps keep things flowing smoothly. It's not just for pleasure, it's for health. But what happens when we don't pay attention, when we ignore the warning signs? Over time, the prostate can become inflamed, irritated, or even swollen. And while this is common, it's also dangerous, especially if you're pushing your body too hard without being mindful. Blood and semen, pressure or discomfort during climax, sudden changes in the flow of your urine. These are red flags you can't afford to ignore. Yet many men brush them off, thinking, well, everything still works, it's fine. But here's the problem. It's not fine. These are signs your prostate is struggling, and ignoring them can lead to serious complications down the line, including chronic inflammation or even prostate cancer. Now, this isn't about scaring you. It's about understanding the true cause. Prostate issues can be worsened by over-release, especially when your hydration and diet aren't on track. Dehydration, for example, can thicken the prostate fluid, making it harder to release and more likely to cause strain. Add in poor diet and stress, and you're creating a perfect storm for trouble. But here's the good news. You can take control now. If you've been experiencing any of those symptoms, don't wait. Drink more water. Improve your diet with anti-inflammatory foods, and don't shy away from checking in with your doctor. Early intervention is key. In fact, many men have completely avoided surgery and irreversible damage just by making a few lifestyle adjustments. It's about being proactive with your health and not waiting for a problem to get out of hand. Remember, you can't ignore what your body's telling you. Any changes down there you've shrugged off? Maybe you thought it was nothing or just getting older. This is your reminder to stop ignoring it. Drop a comment if you've ever noticed something you brushed off. Let's talk. And the final mistake is one that isn't physical, it's emotional. It's the invisible issue that's silently breaking the mental health of millions of men over 60. Keep watching. Mistake number 5, using masturbation to escape emotional pain. Ron had lived alone for years. His kids visited occasionally, but the house always felt empty. Then, one day, he finally admitted something to me that took years for him to face. I wasn't doing it for pleasure. I was doing it because no one touches me anymore. That was the moment I realized just how deeply this hidden epidemic is affecting men over 60. Masturbation as an escape. Not for the joy of release, but as a substitute for the intimacy and human touch that so many men crave. It's a cycle that numbs connection, feeds isolation, and ultimately deepens depression. The reason it's so dangerous is simple. The act itself isn't the problem, it's the emotional void it creates. When you engage in self-pleasure without any emotional connection, without the bond of touch, eye contact, or a meaningful relationship, your body releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, during climax. But here's the catch. When there's no emotional bond, the oxytocin release is blunted. Instead of feeling the warmth of connection, you're left with a brief moment of pleasure, followed by a wave of emptiness. For many men, this leads to a deep sadness after release, a sense of loneliness that only worsens the longer it continues. But it doesn't stop there. As this pattern continues, men often find themselves more isolated. They pull away from others, convinced that they don't need emotional connections anymore because they've found a temporary fix in private habits. Yet, that loneliness becomes a prison. It's a vicious cycle where the more a man seeks release to fill the void, the emptier he feels in the end. This is a real, unspoken issue that's silently breaking down the mental health of so many senior men, and it's one we need to address. The simple truth is, you are not meant to be alone. True emotional fulfillment doesn't come from avoiding the pain of loneliness. It comes from reaching out, from building connections, from allowing yourself to be vulnerable and seek comfort from others. It's easy to believe that self-pleasure can offer a quick escape. But in reality, it's the emotional bonding that creates long-lasting satisfaction, not just the physical release. Real intimacy, whether through touch, conversation, or emotional connection, helps replenish your oxytocin levels and builds your sense of belonging and joy. If you're using masturbation to escape emotional pain, it's time to take a step back and ask yourself, who checks in on you? Who do you turn to when you're feeling alone or down? The real solution isn't in a temporary release. It's in building connections that last. Reach out. Let people in. This is your reminder. You don't have to carry the weight of loneliness alone. Who checks in on you? Who makes you feel seen? If you can think of someone right now, tag them or leave a comment. They might need this reminder too. And that's it for today. You've learned the top 5 mistakes that senior men often make, mistakes that can silently harm your health. But now, the next step is on you. Take action, make the changes, reclaim your well-being. And remember, you are never truly alone. There's always support if you reach for it. This isn't about guilt, it's about wisdom. Your body speaks. Are you listening? If what you just heard made you rethink your habits or opened your eyes to something new, hit like and share this with someone who needs to hear it too. We're all in this together. Aging doesn't have to mean slowing down. It's about aging well. If you want more real talk, no shame, just actionable advice that honors the truth about aging with clarity, courage, and community, hit that subscribe button. Let's continue this journey together, empowering each other to live with strength, clarity, and connection.